Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this podcast YouTube channel. This is not going to be a fast podcast, and it's not a class. We're just going to talk like normal people. Today we have Elizabeth with us. You can call her Eliza. We talk a lot about life, random thoughts, things that don't always have clear answers. So today we thought, why not just sit and talk, step by step, like life actually happens? We'll move through different parts. Childhood, when things felt simple. Then slowly, education, pressure, jobs, relationships, everything. We're not here to teach, just a real conversation. Maybe a little messy, but honest. And yeah, we'll do this in 6 parts because life doesn't happen all at once. So just listen, no pressure. All right, let's start with the first part. I don't know why, but sometimes I randomly start thinking about childhood. Not like a full memory, just small flashes, like running outside without thinking or sitting somewhere doing nothing. And the strange thing is, at that time, it never felt special. It was just normal. Like waking up in the morning and not having any plan, no pressure, just going with the day. I remember waiting for small things like evening time or someone calling me to play, and that waiting actually felt good. Now everything is fast, but back then, even slow things felt enough. It's weird because nothing was big, but everything felt complete.
I get that feeling. It's like life was not heavy back then. Not easy in a big way, but light. Like nothing was sitting on your mind all the time. You didn't wake up thinking about what you have to become or where you are going. You just existed, and that was enough. And even when something went wrong, it didn't stay with you for long. You cried, maybe got upset, but then after some time, you were fine again. That kind of recovery, it feels so rare now. Now even small things stay in your head for hours, sometimes days.
I think the best part was we didn't overthink anything. Like, we didn't sit and analyze every situation. If something felt good, we enjoyed it. If something felt bad, we reacted and then moved on. There was no constant voice in the head asking questions, no pressure to understand everything. And maybe that's why everything felt real. Even simple things, like sitting with family or eating together, they didn't feel like moments. They were just life. Now we try so hard to create moments, but it still doesn't feel the same.
We didn't compare ourselves like we do now. That part changed a lot. Back then, you didn't care who was better, who was ahead, who was doing more. You were just in your own little world. And that world was enough for you. I think that's something we slowly lose, without even noticing it. Because now, even if you try to stay simple, something around you keeps reminding you that you are behind, or you should be doing more. That constant comparison, it wasn't there before.
I feel like time was also different. Not literally, but the way we felt it. Days felt longer. Not boring, just full. Like you actually lived inside the day. Now it feels like days just pass, one after another, and you don't even realize where they went. Back then, even one day had so many small things inside it. Now everything is packed, but still feels empty. I don't know how that changed or when it changed, but it did.
Maybe it changed so slowly that we didn't even see it happening. That's the strange part. There was no one moment where everything became different. It just shifted, little by little. And now, when we look back, it feels like that time was something special, something peaceful. But at that time, we didn't even think like that. We were just living it, without trying to understand it.
Maybe that's why it felt so real. Because we were not trying to understand life, we were just inside it. No labels, no pressure to make sense of everything, just being there in that moment without thinking what comes next. I think somewhere after that, things slowly started becoming serious, even without us realizing it. That's the part where things didn't suddenly become heavy. They just started feeling a little different. Not bad, just different. Like you were still living normally, still going to school, still laughing. But somewhere in the background, something had changed. You didn't notice it clearly, but it was there. Days were still okay, but not as free as before. There was this small shift where you started becoming a little more aware of things, like what people think, what you should do, how you should behave. And even though it wasn't pressure yet, it was like the beginning of something you didn't fully understand.
It's strange because at that time, we still wouldn't call it stress or anything serious. It still felt like life was under control. You had a routine, you followed it, and most days went fine. But inside, there was this new feeling, like you had to be a certain way, like you couldn't just do anything anymore without thinking twice. And it wasn't forced directly. No one sat you down and said, "Change yourself." It just came naturally, through school, through people around you, through small comments, small expectations.
And I remember, this is when thinking about the future slowly started entering the mind. Not in a big, scary way, but just small thoughts, like, what will I do later? What should I become? At first, it felt like a normal question, even a little exciting sometimes. But the thing is, once that thought enters, it doesn't leave. It stays there, quietly, and keeps coming back. Even when you're doing normal things, that thought is somewhere in the background. And that's when life slowly stops feeling just present and starts feeling like it's leading somewhere.
And along with that, comparison also starts coming in. Not very strong at first, but enough to make you notice others, like who is doing better, who is more confident, who is getting attention. Earlier, you didn't even look at these things, but now you start noticing them without trying. And the worst part is, you don't even realize that this is affecting you. You just think it's normal, that this is how life works. But slowly, it changes how you see yourself.
And even enjoyment started changing, I think. Like earlier, you enjoyed things without any reason. Now, even while enjoying, there's a small part of your mind thinking about something else. Like you're there, but not fully there. And it's not like you're unhappy. You're still smiling, still talking. But that complete feeling, that fullness, it starts becoming less. You don't notice it clearly, but if you compare, something is missing.
I feel like this is also the time when we start trying to understand ourselves more, but in a confused way. Like, you think a lot, but you don't get clear answers. You question things, but then leave them halfway. And because there's no proper understanding, your mind keeps going in circles. It's not peaceful anymore, but it's also not completely disturbed. It's just in between.
That's why this phase feels a little confusing when you look back. Because nothing was clearly wrong, but everything was not as simple as before either. It was like standing in the middle between that easy childhood and something more serious that was coming ahead. You couldn't go back, and you didn't fully understand what was coming next.
The most interesting thing is, at that time, we still believed that everything will become easier later. Like, once school is done, once things are clear, life will settle down. We had this quiet belief that the future will make everything simple again. And maybe that belief kept us going, without questioning too much.
We didn't know that this was just the beginning of things becoming more complicated. We thought we were moving towards clarity, but actually, we were moving towards something heavier, something that would slowly demand more from us, more thinking, more effort, more understanding. And I think this is where it actually starts feeling serious. Not slowly anymore, but clearly. Like suddenly, things have weight. Studies are not just studies. They start feeling like something bigger, like they decide something about your life. And I remember, earlier school was just a place you went to, but now it becomes something else. Marks start mattering. Results start mattering. And without anyone saying it directly, you start feeling like your value is connected to those numbers. It's not written anywhere, but you feel it.
The strange thing is, no one really explains why all this matters so much. They just tell you it does. Study well, get good marks, do better than others. But no one really sits with you and says, what happens if you don't? What does it actually mean? So you keep following it without fully understanding it. And slowly, that pressure becomes normal. You don't even question it anymore. It just becomes part of your daily life.
And comparison becomes stronger here, not in a hidden way anymore. It's very visible. Rankings, scores, who is ahead, who is behind. You start seeing yourself through that lens. And even if you try not to care, it still affects you somewhere, because everyone around you is talking about it. Teachers, friends, even relatives sometimes. And you start thinking, maybe this is important. Maybe this decides everything.
That fear also comes in. Not always loud, but present. Fear of not doing well. Fear of disappointing people. Fear of falling behind. And the problem is, this fear doesn't go away after one exam. It stays. One test ends, another starts. One result comes, then the next one becomes important. It's like a cycle that doesn't pause, and you just keep moving inside it without stopping.
But somewhere in all this, you start losing connection with what you actually like. Because now, it's not about what you enjoy, it's about what works, what gives marks, what is useful, what will help later. And you start adjusting yourself according to that. Even if something doesn't feel right, you still do it because everyone else is doing it, because it feels safer to follow than to question.
That's true. And I think this is also the time when we start getting tired, but we don't realize it properly. Like, mentally tired. You keep studying, thinking, worrying, but you don't stop and ask, am I okay? Because there's no space for that question. You just move from one thing to another. And even when you take a break, your mind doesn't fully relax. It's still thinking about the next task, the next exam, the next expectation.
I remember sometimes even after doing everything right, it still didn't feel enough. Like you studied, you tried, you did what you were supposed to do, but still there was this feeling that something is missing or something is not enough. And that feeling is hard to explain because from the outside, everything looks fine. But inside, it doesn't feel complete.
Maybe because we were never really doing it for ourselves. We were doing it to match something, to reach something, to not fall behind. And when you're always chasing something, it's hard to feel satisfied because there's always something ahead. And that keeps your mind in that constant state of trying, and trying.
Yes. The biggest thing is, we believed this is the path to an easier life. Like, if we just go through this phase, if we handle this pressure, then later everything will settle down. That belief was very strong. It made everything feel worth it. Even the stress, even the confusion. We thought it's temporary.
But no one really tells you that this phase doesn't just end and disappear. It changes you. The way you think, the way you see yourself, the way you react to things. It stays with you, even when the exams are over, even when the results don't matter anymore. That mindset, that habit of pressure, it continues.
And maybe that's the part we don't notice at that time. We think we are just passing through it, but actually, it's shaping us. Quietly, slowly, without asking. And then, once all of this is over, we expect life to finally feel easy again. Like, now it should make sense, now it should feel stable. But instead, something else starts.